Hi, my name is Kevin McDonald, and I'm declaring my independence. Independence from what? Why, negative thoughts and energy, of course. Chief among them, hate, division, and fear. You see, I know that we're all one, and together we can solve any problem, save our planet and each other. Please, join me as we come together as one and choose a better way to be. So now, let's begin with my independence report.
And welcome everybody to my Independence Report. We got a special guest today, and I'm really excited to have him here. He was with us a couple of weeks ago, and we just had to have him back because his music, first of all, I love his music. I love the type of music he does and where he comes from and all that stuff. It's just magical. And I'm talking about Tom Tikka, and he's got a band that is called the Missing Hubcaps?
The Missing Hubcaps, yeah.
I knew that. I just had to get it out, and sometimes it doesn't work so well. So how are you, my friend?
Doing good. Like I said, we're at the cabin. We're just laughing about that because I'm never home when he interviews me. You know, It's kind of weird. I'm always home. I'm the kind of guy who never more or less leaves home unless he performs somewhere. But since nobody can go on vacation anywhere else and everybody's spending time in their own countries, it's been a couple of weeks at the summer cottage now. I'm slowly going crazy. But my wife and my kids love it here. So
this
is where we hang out.
I'm glad you've got someplace else to go. A lot of people are stuck in their apartment and they can't get out. And what's the situation with COVID over there?
They're slowly getting better. It's slowly getting better, and they're saying now that perhaps in the fall one can travel again. But you know, I think by September most of us have received the second shot, and that's obviously good news.
Have you heard that there's an anti-vaxxing movement in the United States?
There's an anti-vaccine movement everywhere. You know, and it's, you know, and I'm probably going to get shot now. But of course, you know, vaccinations have saved millions of lives, and they'll continue to save millions of lives. Everybody, every once in a while, sadly, will have a reaction to those. But getting vaccinated has never been about saving one person. It's been saving a big, large, you know, group of people. And obviously, we're pretty pro-vaccine in Finland. I mean, I've gotten a bad response to a vaccine once, but it hasn't stopped me from getting a bunch of those after that. You know, it's just, you know, over here, it's within the system. I think in most of Scandinavia, it is that when a baby's born, it just gets vaccine after vaccine, and that's pretty much all. We have compulsory military service here. Everybody's got to go. So every Finnish male is a soldier. Yeah. And when you go do your national duty, they vaccinate the hell out of you. And it's not where you can go and say that, oh, I'm not going to have a vaccine. They're going to like, yes, you will. You know, no, they won't do that. They won't. Just kidding. But I mean, it's what people do over here. You know, most people are, you know, very conscious of, you know, which vaccines they need to get next year, because as you know, some of those expire, and
right.
And so we have our little books, and nowadays, of course, it's online. Old fogies like me have their little books where we kind of jot down dates. You know, I got to have a 10-year shot next year, and but I mean, obviously, I grew up in the States. I know the cultural difference well.
Yes, indeed.
And it's kind of dangerous, you know. You know, different strokes for different folks.
Well, there are some states that are below, and there's plenty of vaccine available, but there's some states are below like 35%. one of the states that is in the South, naturally, because that's where the red state, we call them red states because they're Republican states and they're very conservative. And they were interviewing a nurse the other day, and she was saying she was holding this man's hand who was desperately sick with COVID, and he goes, "Can I have the vaccine now, please?"
Yeah,
Says, "Sorry, pal."
That's the bad thing about not getting vaccinated. Is they say, at least over here in Scandinavia, they say that everybody's going to get COVID. And now that most folks are going to get vaccinated, then the strain you're going to get, if you're not vaccinated, might be one of the very difficult ones, or a strong one.
They call it the Delta one now, I think.
Yeah, that's the new one. And who knows what kind of different types of COVIDs there will be out there. Obviously, this is a dangerous conversation because neither one of us are doctors, but it's but I'm just I was scared when I got the first shot, but then I'm more scared of not getting vaccinated.
Yeah,
because then once everybody else is, and you're in the 10% that aren't, who knows what's going to happen?
Yeah, I'm also intrigued with the compulsory military service. I wish we had that here.
You do?
Yeah, and well, the reason is we've got a lot of kids that get out of high school and they're kicking around. They don't really know what they're going to do and stuff. And it would be great if there was a program or something that they could go to for a couple of years while they cease to be wet behind the ears and grow up a little bit. And so
yeah, I think it works wonders like that. They are talking about it's always a bit of a debate, especially before the elections, that whether we still need the national duty or not. I'm for the national duty, obviously, but a lot of the younger folks, as you said, would probably rather stay home and play Xbox. But I just that's my attitude, and like I said, different strokes for different folks. It's a dangerous topic to get into, but we all have our preferences, and my eldest son's coming to age, and he's going to be 18. As probably mentioned the last time we spoke, and he's an athlete, played hockey ever since he was 6. He's looking forward to his service, but then again, I got friends who have sons of that age, and they're not, and so I think it depends on what kind of person you are, and I think whether you're athletic. If you're an athlete, then running every morning is not going to be a problem for you. But if you're not, then obviously it'll be tough in the beginning.
Yeah, I can only imagine. It would be it'd be interesting experiment to do over here. But in any event, let's talk about you and your music, which is why you're here. I love your music. I love the way that you play and the things that you do. And we're gonna play again Hearts on Fire, which is on fire. It's doing doing really well. How well is it doing?
Surprised us all.
I don't know why. It's a great song.
Yeah, I love it. But having been in the business for quite a while, it's and sometimes you come up with a great song, and then really nothing comes out of it. It's just the label puts it out there, and somebody offers it to the radio, and the radio goes like, well, we got a stack of things we got to listen to, and that's the end of it. So I think with a fair amount of luck, and obviously Michael Stover and Howard Rosen Promotions working feverishly to get the track on the radio in the States has really paid off. I think it's lots of times, like with anything, it's basically a question of the people who work with your music or work with you. If they're very determined, if they have the right connections and they know what they're doing, then if the song is good, then it just might make it. And in this case, the fact that Hearts on Fire has made the mainstream radio, it's fantastic. I'm stoked. Over the moon, man.
as well you should be. By the way, I wanted to shout out to Michael Stover and MTS Management. They've done a great job for everybody that I've talked to. Just the man that never sleeps. They love his promotions and what he does, and he works to get people on the radio, on podcasts like this, and to really separate you guys from, because there's a lot of noise out there. There's
incredible amount of noise out there. And nowadays, especially when I started in the music business, not everybody could just put their stuff on Spotify. You really needed to find a label first, and then get a recording contract to get into the studio, and then they release your music, which in a way I kind of miss, because it worked as some sort of quality control. I mean, sure. I don't, nowadays a lot of the stuff that I listen to, because I'm of the generation who, I know how to tune a guitar without any sort of automatic tuner. So my ear is very, and lots of times with indie music, especially, you listen to it and you kind of realize why it isn't mainstream, right off the bat. And I, like I said, different strokes for different folks. I've always appreciated the music to be up to snuff in terms of being in tune and being mixed and appropriately and so forth. And I think that that's one of the downsides of aggregators, which you use nowadays, like CD Baby or TuneCore, and everybody can get their accounts going and start releasing music, and so there's a good side to it, and then there's a downside to it. And the downside is what I just described. The good side is that some bands that you would never ever find out about, you might actually hear.
But there is, all you need these days, it appears, is a software program and a computer and maybe a keyboard, and then you can do anything you want to with it. But I really believe, honestly, that someone like you that has spent his entire adult life working on it and developing everything that you're doing, it takes a while for someone to really get their chops and to be able to play and coordinate and produce and do all the things that you do. You can't just sit at a computer and do it and then auto tune it and stuff like that. It just doesn't have that same resonance that music that is played with, I don't know, actual instruments have.
Yeah.
And guys that know what they're doing with those instruments.
True. I couldn't agree more. I think that it's kind of weird, because my kids, my 18-year-old and the kids that are 11 and 13 listen to modern day pop, and so I'm fed. They feed this stuff to me. Whenever we jump in the car and go on a road trip, I'm listening to rap, man. It's rap and modern pop, and it's nowadays even rap is kind of some of the stuff that they play. Even rap isn't really rap anymore. It's some sort of a weird combination of modern day pop and auto-tuned, and I just but they love it. And I listen to it because apparently I have no say what happens in the car.
You don't control the radio,
right? I do not control the radio at all. No, I'm the guy who drives, and buys lunch. That's an important. That's a big job.
Bring your keys and your wallet, Dad. That's what we want you for.
That's right. Yeah, basically.
So,
but you're right. It all takes a while to basically learn. And in on your career, just during your career, you go through different phases. Every once in a while, you're highly motivated and you just keep going and at it and just work. And then, if nothing happens for a while and your songs aren't doing that well, you kind of sort of hit that sort of more, let's say, phlegmatic existence in terms of music, where, you kind of record every once in a while, but not actively. So I think that I think it's nice to get a little bit of success because it always roots you on, if you know what I mean.
Oh, absolutely. Well, it's nice to have, since you can't tour and you can't be in front of an audience, it's hard to gauge how a song's being received. And if you've got some measurement by how many downloads it has, by the way, please, ladies and gentlemen, download music, don't stream it. If you want to buy it, buy it. Because these guys work there forever to do a good job and to put the albums out there. And so please buy the music. Don't pirate it. Anyway, but when you're driving in your car with your kids and some of these songs come up, my kids did the same thing to me. I grew up with Led Zeppelin and the Beatles and Chicago and some really good bands, and then I hear this screaming thing that they're doing now, and this and all of that, and it's like it hurts my ears. Does it hurt your ears?
Yeah, it hurts my ears, and every once in a while you tend to listen to the lyrics, especially with pop, because rap has always some sort of cool wordplay going. You can always get into it a little bit, but some of the pop tunes of the day, I'm always, thinking that it's sort of anti-Bob Dylan. There's no poetry in it. It's just disconnected phrases that sound great one after another. And just to quote John Lennon, talked about, I don't remember, and I don't want to say who he talked about, but he said nice and light. He used the term nice and light about music that he wasn't crazy about. So I mean, a lot of the pop that I hear, not all of it, but a lot of it is nice and light.
Yeah. Which was his version of pretty bad stuff and stuff. So it's and we can both reference John Lennon because we were both alive when he was alive.
Yeah, true. We were, and I mean, he was amazing.
He was that whole band. I'm of course grew up with the Beatles, and so they were an amazing part of my life and stuff. And so part of that is I love the poetry of a great song. I love the harmonies that are put together and how the bass and the rhythm section works together and stuff like that. And I just don't hear that as much in today's stuff. Maybe it's me.
Well, it's computerized. It's made with machines, and there's nothing wrong with that. It just seems to be the norm. And I think that rock and roll is a lot of the people that go for rock and roll really aren't necessarily in Spotify. And if they are in Spotify, they're listening to the classics, which means that if there's new rock and roll around, it's kind of hard for it to find an audience. And I think mostly it's top 40s pop.
Yeah, it is. Well, you know what? Because I'm so excited about having you here again, I want to play Hearts on Fire, which really is on fire. And then we've got another song, which is Turn Back Time, which we're going to play in a little bit after that. But I love your music. I love the stylings of it. And
Thanks,
now that you are closer to September and they're talking about opening stuff up, are you thinking about touring in the fall?
Not really, because the Missing Hubcaps is a make-believe band, because I'm playing all the instruments. If Hearts on Fire truly took off and there'd be a good reason to tour, I'd probably put a band together and tour. But they would, I'll tell you what though, if all folks out there who are listening today and those who aren't start downloading it and make it a worldwide hit, I'll put Missing Hubcaps together for real and I'll tour. But until there's a reason to tour, because I've obviously toured a lot during my career. And
you've got teenage boys. You need to stay home.
Yeah, I got to stay home, man. And hey, you know what though? Remember when you were in your early 20s?
Oh yeah.
And you stayed up a couple of nights and you didn't die.
Yeah, are you saying that the rock and roll lifestyle and when you're a little more seasoned is a little harder?
It's a bit harder. Yeah, I mean, I haven't tried it for a while, but if memory serves, I could be dead after one night.
Well, and you don't, you certainly don't want that.
No.
And but plus I don't know. I was talking to a country. You'll appreciate this. I was talking to one of Michael's clients, who's a country music guy, and he was doing as many as 130 dates a year.
That's a lot.
And yeah, and he was getting in a van, 7-person van. There was a 7-piece band, and they had a trailer with their equipment in it, and they would just go driving up the road, and that thing didn't even have a bathroom. And when you get a little older, that becomes the important things in life become even more important, like access to a bathroom.
Right, access to a bathroom, man. Yeah. And time to use it. No, but I mean, too much information there. But but the thing is, though, when you start out, and you're young, and you go on tour, and you take the music out there, and then your music takes off, which is this part of my career I've already sort of experienced. Right now, it's not like I'm ebbing out, but it's sort of, I'm in a comfortable place,
Yes.
releasing music. I think that, when you do it the first time, it makes sense. It's fun. Everybody should experience it. It's wonderful to tour when the record label is pushing your songs as hard as they can, and little by little, night after night, you just kind of see it grow, where people actually have learned the lyrics to your stuff, and they know who you are, and that's wonderful. I'm hoping everybody, not everybody will get to experience it, but it's a wonderful feeling. Right now, I'm not saying that I'll never tour. Like I said, if there's a good reason for it, I'll do it. But if there isn't, then I'd rather stay home with my kids.
I couldn't agree with you more. I think I told you I was a traveling salesman at one point, and
yeah, you did. Yeah,
and it was like a Tuesday night at the Motel 6, having room service from McDonald's, watching CNN, and it was like, there's got to be a better life than this.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, and my kids were home, and my wife was wanting me to be home, so all of that. So it works out well, and because of your talents and being able to do all the instruments and the arrangements and the production and everything else, you don't necessarily have to travel anymore.
Well, that's the way I see it. But like I said, I've learned a couple of things in life. Never underestimate anyone is number one. Wow. And the second one is never say never.
Good point.
Because at one point I had decided long time ago that I'm never going to have kids, and look at me now, 6 boys. I just so now I'm saying there'll never be Missing Hubcaps. Maybe when we talk in 5 years, like, oh yeah, I guess I didn't really mean it. So you never know.
You do what you got to do in the end, as long as you're following your passion. That's the main thing.
That's the main point. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, let's shall we talk about Hearts on Fire a little bit? Did that just show up one day, knock at your door and say, here?
Well, in a way, yeah. I was having lunch with an old friend, and we talked about what it was like to be young. And then we sort of got gossiping about old friends. And obviously, if you look at the lyrics, then that's what the song is about. There's Ken hates his wife, Matt's in therapy, Art's in jail, and so that's really what the lunch was about. We had great fun, and it was one of those lunches that you never truly want. You don't want it to end. You just want to continue chatting. But like I think I told you last time, the wife started calling, are you taking the kids to soccer tonight? And so we're all driving, or both of us driving off to pick up our kids, and the hobbies and everything just kind of got in the way. But I got home that night after my son's hockey practice, and just sort of the song came out. And I started writing it in the car a little bit already, jotted down some words, what I was waiting for him to be ready to come out from the rink. I was sort of writing on my phone, typing Hearts on Fire and all these different ideas that are in the song. And so it didn't take long when I got home. I got the guitar And it was one of those ones that really wrote itself.
The rest, they say, is history.
Yeah.
Let's
hope that.
So this is Tom Tikka, and this is Hearts on Fire.
We all sat down and we swore we won't get old. Stephen every money empty lost his head. Jake's heart has turned cold, and I've been bought and sold. Yeah, my heart's on fire, and my blood boils hot. I am all desire. I will never stop. I'll shout it from rooftops out loud. Peter mentioned Ken hates his wife, but just in secrecy. Bob got fired and Art's in jail. Matt's in therapy. It all sounds just like me. Yeah, my heart's on fire, and my blood boils hot. I am all desire. I will never stop. I'll shout it from rooftops. I'm alive. My life has gone, it seems, far from the street of dreams. Yet I'm hanging Do you remember when we all sat down and we swore we won't get old? Stephen married money and he lost his head. Yeah, my heart's on fire, and my blood boils hot. I am all desire. I will never stop. Yeah, my heart's on fire, and my blood boils hot. I am all desire. I will never stop. I'll shout it from rooftops. Remember when we all sat down.
And that's Tom Tikka, and that is Heart on Fire. You know, I listened to the lyrics on that one. A couple things that struck me. First of all, was isn't it cool as a dad that you can have a kid on a video, your kids on a video that is being seen worldwide?
Yeah, it is pretty cool. And
Yeah. And what
Love it.
is your favorite instrument? You, by the way, you're a hell of a drummer.
Well, thanks. I do have countless of retakes, and so my and I edit the drums quite a bit. Just want to be, because it's a skill, and the most fantastic drummers are really truly fantastic. I'm not one of them. I remember actually being on a flight once where the plane landed. And the captain was a bit of a stand-up comedian during the flight, and he said that thanks for flying. I'm not going to say which airline with us. You know what they always say, that as you know, we have the best flight attendants in the world, And there was a pause, and then he said, "Too bad none of those were on this flight." And so, it's same thing about my drumming. I'm not on that flight. But I kind of, I know what the drums are supposed to sound like, what a good drum track should sound like. So I can work around the things that I don't really know how to do perfectly. But my favorite instrument is the guitar.
And you're very good at that as well.
Well, thanks. That's sort of what I love the guitar. I got Rickenbacker from 1973 at home, Telecaster from 1968, wow. Gibson Les Paul from the 80s, and vintage guitars, and So
we're not going to say where you live because those are valuable.
They're valuable. Yeah, they truly are.
And so do you use a tape player? Do you go into the studio to do this? Do you do this at home? Have you built a studio at home? How do you produce stuff?
I got a home studio. Yeah. It's sort of it's not a fancy studio that I have at home, but it's good enough for me to record everything. And so then when I'll usually go to the bigger studio with my producer Janne Saksa, and we just get a bigger sound. We edit a little bit more, and a bigger studio will have bigger and better equipment. You get a lot more out of the tracks there. I think that you can start the album at home, the single at home, which is what I do. It's very, it's comfortable. Just go upstairs. And then when it comes, I usually mix them pretty, they're pretty final. Well, we kind of, if we replay the drums a bit or the bass, they're sort of, we work with the blueprint that's already there. So they don't really change when I take the whole thing to the bigger studio, because number one, that'd be very expensive to start changing stuff there. But mostly because I kind of know what I want. And so by the time I involve my producer, Michael and I have sort of already thrown ideas around. He's the executive producer on this stuff. And so he definitely puts his 5 cents in every time. And so we've kind of already talked a little bit about the arrangement, and I've changed it around a bit because he's got great ideas. And so when it's time to go to the what I call real studio, it's more or less already almost there.
How many tracks do you use when you generally record?
A lot, because Hearts on Fire, if I remember correctly, I think I sang the song about, I want to say 82 times. You got 82 just the lead vocal tracks. And then what I usually do is I go through all of them, and whatever you end up hearing is a composite of that. I don't really want to use auto-tune at all. And if I have 82 tracks, I can go between tracks, and if something is out of tune, usually not a whole lot of things are, but I'll sort of come up with maybe 10 tracks that I know have no tune issues. And then I go through those 10 tracks, and I'll try to find the best take. And that's why I hate doing vocals, by the way, because
you do?
Yeah, because it's so much work. I if I could just go in and sing, and somebody else would do the editing.
Oh, yeah.
I would love it. But having to go through all those, because sometimes you got a really good take, but you're too close to the microphone, and the recording is not up to snuff. And then you just kind of throw that track out simply because of technical issues, right? And so it's a lot of trial and error, and it takes a while. And then obviously, if I sing today, I'm not gonna. I usually, go back in about 2 weeks when I don't remember what I did anymore, and I can actually hear which which bits and pieces are not in tune, because if you do it right away, you don't necessarily hear. And so doing it all all by yourself is a little bit complex, because then you need to take breaks, longer breaks than, if you were, for example, editing my vocals, you'd hear it instantly. Just stop you'd hit stop and say that, Tom, sing that again. That wasn't what we're looking for. And so if you got somebody else in the control booth or room, it's much easier, much quicker, because they hear it right away. Whereas when you're singing, everything sounds fantastic. But then, not everything is. It's not, you think you're spitting out diamonds and
Well, and then the other part that a lot of people don't realize is that doing the backing vocals is just as much work as doing the lead vocals.
Yeah, it is, because it's about getting the ideas as well.
Yeah, and putting that all together, and then the bass, the guitar. I noticed there was a little bit of piano in it. And drums, and you did it all. That's amazing.
Yeah, especially the piano was I think that there's only just that, after the first chorus, when it kind of goes back to the beginning, I just hit those two chords, or I don't even remember how many chords you have there with the piano, but it's very little. Mm-hmm. But it gives you the impression that there's piano. Which is kind of, lots of times producing a record is that you get, if you're able to play that instrument in a bit where everybody recognizes that, oh, that's piano, that's saxophone, right, or whatever, then you get this feeling, oh, that song has a saxophone, right? And when in reality it could have saxophone only in the outro, like that one Springsteen track, which, what was that? Can't remember the name right now. But it was on Born in the USA album, oh man, what's that track? Dance something. I listened to that album.
Not Dancing Queen. That's
no. It's no. But by the way, we saw
that's
we're confusing Springsteen with ABBA, right?
One of them will be very disappointed that I made that connection. I think I know who it is too.
Dancing in the Dark. That's the song. That's the song.
Dancing
right.
in the Dark.
Isn't that the song? Yeah.
So
but it's got, the point being that it's got saxophone in the outro. And so you get this idea that, oh, hey, there's sax, but in reality it's just there.
Right. So, and it's kind of an illusion, but it adds depth and feel to it. So
right.
It really is a fun track to do. Now, the other one that we are going to play is Turn Back Time, which both of these are a little bit about, the Turn Back Time is more about a relationship, isn't it?
Yeah, it's about my divorce about a decade ago. It's I'm remarried now, have been for a long while, but it's about I remember when it was sort of agreed that we're going to go our separate ways, and I was moving out, and we had these moving boxes, the plastic ones that you carry, and U-Haul boxes, and our kids were so small, they had no idea what was happening, and so they were having the time of their lives, climbing all over those boxes, playing, and here I am hauling stuff to the car. And it was heartbreaking. It's truly heartbreaking. And that's what the song is about. It's too bad that children get caught up in between these fights and really have to live through these problems that their moms and dads have. It somehow doesn't seem fair. And I was a lot younger then, and hadn't really experienced a divorce. My parents stayed together until the end, and everybody's did in those days, and so it was all new territory for me, new ground, and having seen what it does to the children, I'm not going to say if you're in an abusive relationship you got to leave. But knowing what it does to the children, I'd probably, at least I'd say think twice.
I know, I agree.
And
with
that's
you.
what the song is really, it's about a failing relationship, but there's that bit at the end where I talk. And you have my son Matt was 3 then. And so, it's all very real.
Yeah, it's really, really hard for kids. My youngest was 15, and so he was like a sophomore in high school, and it was a matter of shuffling him back between his mom's and mine, and he wasn't comfortable over there, and because I had made his room his home, and so
right,
it was, so he was, and that's where the dog was, where the cat was, and he was more comfortable there, but he had to go over there, and there was the boyfriend and so there was some.
It's hard.
It's really hard for a teenager.
But marriage is hard. Relationships are hard. It's kind of weird. We're able to put man to the moon. When you really truly think about it, and we spend countless of hours studying math. And all sorts of sciences and things that we deem important. And I'm not saying they aren't, because they truly are. But very little time is spent, especially in school, about, how to learn to be a good husband or a wife, or what relationships are truly about. Nobody really, maybe the younger generation, my parents never sat me down and said that, look, marriage is hard work, and here's what you got to do. No, it was kind of like, one day you'll get married and you have kids, and then wouldn't that be wonderful?
Right.
And that's the piece of advice that I got.
I got the same talk.
Hey, I'm thinking most everybody does still today.
Yeah.
And the reality of it when you're young and you don't necessarily know even how to choose the right spouse for yourself, which is what it's all about, really. It's not that one is bad, the other one's good, or whatever. It's just two incompatible people, and it's truly sad to see generation after generation folks struggle with these same issues, as if nobody ever sat them down and said, look, as a parent, I know that this is the type of person you are, and my advice to you is, choose a wife or a husband like this, because as stupid as it sounds, at the age of, I don't know, 15 to 25, when you're 15 to 25, I think your parents still know you better than you do, yourself.
Yeah,
and
true.
And that's usually, around about 23, 25 is when you get on that path. In the olden times, a lot earlier, but nowadays, and you don't choose wisely, it's going to be one hell of a roller coaster ride.
Oh yeah. Well, and like my mom and dad got married. My mother was 19. My dad was 21. It's like they were children. They hadn't even figured out who they were yet.
Imagine that, and that's and I got married when I was 21.
So you had the same thing.
Yeah. And so how do you expect it? The thing is, though, even if you're 21, you're just a kid.
Yeah.
But at the time, you don't feel like you are.
Oh no, you know everything. My dad was really stupid until I was about 28. Then I figured out he was a pretty bright guy.
Yeah, same here. Yeah, same here. My dad's a genius. It's the realization. When it hits you.
Yeah, it really is. I'm struck, Tom, because you are, in addition to being a terrific musician, I think that in order to be a really good songwriter, you really have to be a poet, and you have to really have depth of soul to be able to write lyrics that are meaningful to other people. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that if you don't know about life, it's very difficult to write lyrics that truly touch people. I think that that's the kind of writing that I go for. I probably why I love Bob Dylan, John Lennon, and the Australian band Go Betweens so much, REM, is that you know, their best stuff really resonates. It's, you look at the lyrics and you realize, geez, you know, obviously even as a listener you have to have certain life experience to recognize that in the lyrics, but you look at the lyrics and you realize that, man, these guys know what they're talking about. You know, they've lived through the same stuff that I'm living through right now. Makes sense. And that's when I truly, whenever I hear a lyric or read a lyric like that, I truly sort of fall in love with it.
I do too. In fact, my brother passed away. Excuse me.
I'm sorry.
My brother passed away last October.
Oh
And
man. Yeah.
while we were talking the last time that we talked, and he was playing like Bringing in the Sheaves or Amazing Grace or something in the background, and he said, I really want to listen to REM and rock and roll and stuff. And so I said, well, why don't you play In My Life, which is the John Lennon song from the Rubber Soul album. And it spoke to me, and he'd been gone for at that point 40, well, it was 40 years, but that song still resonated with me and spoke to me in a way that few have. And if you were a songwriter, I can't think of anything that would be better than being able to affect somebody's life literally decades later.
Well, you know, that's the thing about John Lennon. That's one of my favorites. And then he's got a song called Woman, which was on Double Fantasy. I mean, a lot of people listen to it and they go like, what is this child inside a man? And what is he talking about? You know, wanting the sort of security that a young dude or a young boy would want or need from a mother. But I mean, it's the truth. You know, we're sort of in a society where, you know, to be sexy or whatever, a man's gotta be a certain way. And then that's the, you know, that sort of the Hollywood presentation of James Bond, you know, as if that person truly existed any more than those supermodels do in real life.
Right.
You know, because everybody, but I think one of the best things about John Lennon and other brilliant lyricists, that Gene Clark of the Byrds, for instance,
sure,
is the fact that they sang it the way it truly is. You know, you get to the core. It's not necessarily always a nice presentation of the artist if they display their weaknesses, or a presentation of a man that lots of men and especially women want to hear or to embrace. But, you know, that doesn't make it any less true. Lots of time reality is far more difficult to handle than just, you know, putting on a brave face and going about, you know, bringing on some of that Southern hospitality that you were talking about. You know, somebody doesn't like your song. It's like, well, what would you like to hear? You know, and but it's lots of times we do that in life, and I think the best songwriting goes beyond that.
Well, and it's like Woman. He was 40 years old, and his mother, who when he was a teenager was hit by a car and killed, and so he's hit by a policeman, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, off-duty cop. Yeah, true.
And so he was 40 years old when he wrote that, and he was still referencing back to that happened 25 years before that he hadn't really dealt with, because and so that was his, I think, part of his attempt to deal with that and to deal with Yoko, and they split up for a period of, you know, and all that kind of stuff. So,
but I mean, isn't that that's the complexity of our adult relationships, is that yes, we're both guys, so, you know, let's talk from a guy's perspective, because that's all we can do. We're looking for a lover, we're looking for a friend, but in a way you're always looking for that same security in your relationship that you used to have with your parents. It's kind of weird. Very few people are willing to admit that. And when I say it out loud right now, it doesn't, you know, it feels like, you know, what did I just say it or admit? But that's the truth, you know, especially I think the older you get, you want that security, you know.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, because there's a point in time as a man, you're out there and you're slaying dragons and you're bringing home the bacon and you're fighting traffic and you want to come home to a place that's safe, secure, where you can let your hair down and be who you are without having to put on airs about who you think you are, who that person would like you to be. And you want something that's safe like that. And some people can put that together with a spouse. A lot of us can't get that done. We're not smart enough to pick the right people.
Ain't that the truth? And I think that and I think that if you aren't with the right person, every compromise seems like a big deal. I think that that's what my grandma used to say, that how do you know you've chosen the right person, is that no matter what they really want from you, it doesn't feel like a compromise, even if it is. And I think that this is one of the things that I didn't understand as a kid. My grandma had a lot of these things that she kept saying, and but she was quite a bit. She was 70. She lived a really long life, but she was 70 when I was born. So, here I am being 10, right? And she's saying things like that. And so I'm like, what's a relationship? And then, she went on with her and she would say, what's a relationship? Like, I truly want to know what a relationship is. And she's like, isn't that the truth, Tom? As if I was truly contributing to the conversation. But the good thing about bringing up your kids or your grandkids is that somewhere down the line, they do, even if you're gone, they do remember the stuff you've told them. And maybe it's 10 years from now, 20, or perhaps even 30 years from that moment that you said whatever it was that you said to them, that it all starts to resonate and make sense. It's never truly wasted, you see.
No, it does show up in your brain eventually, which is, it's interesting because you had the same, we had the same grandmother. It's amazing to me, like in this culture, I don't know how it is where you are, but in this culture, we tend to warehouse older people and put them in rest homes and just throw them away when there is such a innate value to it because they've already been through it. They've been through it.
See, that's the thing. It's what we do everywhere in Western world. My family was a bit different because my grandma was in such good condition. She lived with us basically up until the end, and so I was very fortunate to grow up in a household that had that sort of paternal grandmother present at all times, bringing me up, and that was fantastic because I think that number one, kids learn to respect the older folks. They learn to talk to them. They learn to listen. There's just a whole lot of things you learn if you have that setup going for you when you're growing up. And I think that what you already referred to, this wealth of information, it's so weird to be talking to my 18-year-old son every once in a while and saying that don't do that because I know exactly where that's going to lead. And he's like, how do you know? Well, the discussion for another day, because you've been through it. And the thing is that even though he is not me and his friend is not the friend that I'm referring to, people are people. And once you've had the same experience countless times during your life, you kind of put one and one together and you realize. And that's the best thing about getting a little bit older, is that you start getting into this trouble zone, right? But you recognize where you're headed. And before you even, kind of nip it in the bud, right? Because before it really becomes a problem, whatever the word "it" here is, because it can be a plethora of things.
Sure.
But before the shit hits the fan, you're already out of the picture, But when you're a young dude, you're headed for the fan, and ain't nobody gonna stop you, And that's just the way it is. Everybody's got to learn it for themselves.
It's sad but true. I tried. I really, really tried, but I never could. I could never get it through because they said, "Well, what the hell do you know?"
Bitter old men. That's what it's my granddad. I remember he came to me and said that, your grandma and I have only one thing that we agree on. And I'm like, once again, as a really young dude, right? What is that? Neither one of us trust women. Like, this is not my wisdom. I'm not passing it on to anyone. This is my sort of 70-year-old granddad talking to me when I was 8, but from a very, when was he born? Like 1920s, right?
Yeah.
But from a very male perspective, aged dinosaur male perspective, those are the things that he kept saying to me. But the thing is, he should have really sat me down and give me examples and explain what he means, because it really isn't about men or women or whatever. It's about people. And those were the kind of pieces of advice that I got. Whereas what I try to do with my kids, and probably I've screwed it up too, is I try to sit them down, give examples, share my experiences, and explain how I feel. And I try to stay away from gender stuff or any of the other stuff, and just talk about people, because people react this way usually. And you know what? Hasn't really made any difference. I'm still the bitter old guy, and so I've come to the conclusion that you got to go through it yourself.
Yep. And if you're a good parent, you're there to pick up the pieces, dust them off, and send them back on their way. Yeah. And by the way, I suspect that you are a hell of a dad.
Well, thanks. I try to be. It's my number one priority these days.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Tom, I could sit here and talk to you for hours, but we need to play a song.
Hey, sounds good.
So
what you got for me?
This is a song that Tom wrote. It's about, by the way, how does your ex-wife feel about being in a song?
I haven't really asked her about that. I think that knowing her, we're on good terms, and I think that looking back, we both feel we could have done a whole lot of things differently. I gotta be honest here and say that I don't think our divorce was really her fault. It was me being young and not thinking things through. However, the rut had already set in a couple of years prior to our divorce, and so I think if there was a time machine and we could have turned back the time way back when it was still possible. We should have gone back about 10 years. But that's the thing of what I just said about recognizing when the rut sets in, you see trouble in the horizon. That's when you act. You don't act when it's all in pieces. And in our case, we were young and didn't know what to do, didn't react quickly enough, and what followed. But knowing her, she'd probably just say that, yeah, too bad, sounds like us.
Well, I do have to say, me and my ex-wife have a perfect relationship. We haven't talked in 10 years, so it's worked out well for me.
It almost sounds like that Winston Churchill quote when he said that all married couples should go out twice every week. My wife goes out on Tuesdays and I go out on Thursdays.
That's perfect. And yes, so by the way, I'm having a hell of a time talking to you. This is so much fun.
Likewise, man.
Tom Tikka, and this is Turn Back Time.
Tuck in the kids, I fall into 1,000 bits, knowing you don't give a shit. Wish I could turn back the time. Wish I never made you mine. So many things I realized just now. Wish I could turn back the time. We fight about your wedding rings, work and sex, most everything. If I could whitewash my mind, I'd erase it all outright, so that I can sleep at night. Wish I could turn back the time. Wish I never made you mine. So many things I realized just now. Wish I could turn back the time. I kissed my 3-year-old
goodbye to his clan. Someday they'll understand.
Wish I could turn back the time. Wish I'd never made you mine. So many things I realized you just know. Wish I could turn back the time. Wish I could turn back the time. Wish I could turn back the time.
And that is Tom Tikka and Turn Back Time. And by the way, one of these days, I hope you're going to find the hubcaps so that you can tour, because I think that you'd put on a hell of a show.
You know, we probably would. You know, and thanks for believing in me in that respect. I think that if the band was hot and the timing was right, the show would probably be amazing.
It's hard to put together a band, isn't it?
It's very, 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 very difficult. And especially when you get to the point where I am, where I want to have control over what happens.
Well, it's your name is like right there in front of everybody and stuff.
Yeah, well, true. Yeah.
You do deserve to have the control over the stuff that you do, and it's your music and stuff. So, but then you've got egos and you've got inner band relationships and all that kind of stuff. That's got to be really hard to manage.
It always is. It always is. It just, you know, never goes smoothly, based on my experience.
It's kind of like, well, it really is very much like a marriage.
Oh, indeed it is. Yeah. But then again, you know, that's what I say to my kids these days, that maybe these words like marriage, rock band, maybe we're just talking about human relationships. You know, they seem to be having, it's always the same issues. It's just different manifestations.
Yep. It's in a different time. They may have different things surrounding it, but and I think it's really is all about communication. And
that's the key. Without that, you've got nothing.
And what worries me about today's group of kids is that these excuse the expression, these damn computers that they have in their hand, and the texting rather than communicating. I asked my youngest son one time, why do you like to text and not talk to people?
Yeah.
Because you gain so much by actually having a conversation rather than a texting thing. Of course, he was a good-looking young 20-something at the time, and he said, "Well, Dad, it's because I can text 4 girls at the same time and have 4 different conversations going."
See, they figured out something we had no idea about, right?
Exactly.
You know, and that's the next day you went and got yourself a cell phone, right?
Yes, sir. I said, well, but I couldn't find 4 women to talk to at the same time. So
he took it back to the store. This damn thing isn't working.
Exactly. Well, Tom, I'm not going to take any more of your time because I've monopolized your time enough. But I want to thank you so much for coming back on the show.
Thanks for having me on the show. What a treat this was.
Go ahead.
Hopefully you'll have me on the show again.
Oh, anytime you would like to, because you know the cool thing is the first time I meet somebody and I do one of these interviews, it's very finding out information and stuff like that. But like today, we got more into philosophy and things and how we feel about life. And since you've been around a while, you can really give somebody some sound advice.
Hey, neither one of us are spring chicken anymore.
So. Well, ain't that the truth?
Yeah.
You know. So it's important that you take care of your kids and you're doing the right thing and your music is wonderful. I really hope Hearts on Fire just takes it to the next level and becomes a worldwide phenomenon.
Hey, that makes 2 of us. And in the meantime, let's go back to the store. I'm gonna change this. Hopefully we'll get one of those cell phones. Next time I come on the show, we got better experience.
Exactly. Well, see, now my problem is that I would be dating a grandmother, And somebody's grandmother. I had a friend said to me one time, fairly recently. He said, "Why aren't you dating?" And I said, "Well, because I would like. Let's take your family for example. You've got a wife. You've got 7 kids. You've got, I think, to date 15 grandkids. And then say you're out of the picture, and then I'm dating their grandmother, and then I've got to meet like these 30 people and get judged by all these folks, and I'm just not up to that challenge."
Hey, come Christmas time, you'd have to be a millionaire.
Boy, no kidding. Tom Tikka has been our guest, and by the way, you have the opportunity, young man, to say anything you'd like to our audience. By the way, your website, we got to get that out too.
Oh, it's www.tomtikka.com.
That's easy enough.
Yeah.
So anything you'd like to tell our audience?
I'm going to always keep saying the same thing. Time is precious. Don't waste it on people, jobs, or anything that isn't worth your while. That's it. That's the only, because it'll all come to an end one day. And we all know there's a season to everything. And I think you're never too old to change everything around you, but one day you will be too sick to do it. And so I think that learning from my dad's life and my grandfather's lives, if you're not happy with your life changing, live the kind of life you truly want, and have no regrets. That's my advice.
That is perfect advice, and I'll leave. Well, no, I'm not going to go into that. So we'll leave it right there because that is absolutely perfect. And the only thing that I would add to that is make sure that the people that you love know that you love them, and that you tell them often, because you never know when the time is going to happen when you're not going to see them anymore.
That's right. That's right.
And it can happen at any moment. So make sure that you are and live your life with gusto and passion. So there. Tom Tikka has been our guest. Go to tomtikka.com, get his music, buy it, please. Get the CD, buy it, please. I would love to see you do vinyl. Have you thought about vinyl?
I have. Perhaps that's going to be the next thing that I'll do. I have an album coming out in the fall, which is going to be called "This Is My Happy Day," Happy Face. And Hearts on Fire is the first single, and then there's a track called Doormat that's going to be another single. It's a wild video where I am dressed as a woman. So it's a theater play, and so like in ancient Greek theater, I play all the parts.
Well, what's interesting about that is, and a lot of people may not know this, but in the olden days, in Shakespearean days, women were not on stage.
Exactly.
It was all done by men.
All done by men. That's right. And that's what I'm attempting. Let's see what people say about that. Comes out in early September.
Will you come back when that drops?
I definitely will. Yeah, absolutely. If you'll have me, I'll be here. Oh,
any time. I'd love for you to co-host this thing, but you don't have the time to do that. So, but I want to thank you again for being on the show. And if you'll stay right there for just a second, I'll be right back.
Hey, and thanks for listening to this episode all the way to the end. Hey, pretty cool. Hey, don't forget to follow us so you can receive regular updates and new posts. And remember, take care of each other because each other's all we got. See you next time on My Independence Report.